and excited to share the stage today with my co-moderator and one of my best friends, Taylor Adams. So feel free to say a couple words about yourself, Taylor.
Yeah, there's been a few instances where people confuse Savannah and I, so hopefully moving forward you can tell us apart. But my name is Taylor Adams. I am the VP of Sales and Operations for A&N Mortgage Sports and Entertainment. And I'm so proud of Savannah. She's put together an incredible just community of these power hours. So kudos to you, but I'm excited for this panel. Let's get into it.
Cool. Okay, the moment we've all been waiting for. One by one, I want you guys to just brag a little bit, introduce yourselves, tell us what we need to know, and why we should trust the advice that you're giving us today. We're going to start with you, Danielle. Ladies first.
Okay, so I am Danielle Dowell. I have the Do Well group. It's my team, which they're over there. So I'm with Berkshire Hathaway. I've been with them since I started my career, so 17 years, I think, going on. We do everything from new construction, development, resales, rentals. We run the gamut. We do even a lot of big multifamily investing. We've started to do some lease-ups of big multifamily. We're kind of vectoring a little bit of that way too, just because of what I invest in personally and what we see market doing. So yeah, that's basically who we are and what we do. I don't know if you should trust me or not. No, I'm just kidding.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Mike Batista. I have been in real estate for now about 23 years. I started selling buildings for development. That's kind of how I got into this gig in terms of all the projects that we've done. I work for Jameson Sotheby's. I started at that company, left for a little while, and came back recently. So looking forward to being here, and thank you, A&N, and everyone for having me.
You guys, Mark Ickes, team lead, Ickes Group, Compass in Chicago and out in Jackson Hole, which is a unique kind of multi-market situation. Been in the business since 2008, which wasn't the best time to really get in full time, but that's when I kind of started. Originally was with Conlin. We were heavily development focused, so I kind of walked into a brokerage that spent a lot of time on neighborhood developments. That's kind of where I started, and now work with some great developers. We do small scale neighborhood stuff, 3 flat, 6 flat, single family homes, but also the last 6 years, we've been focused on really large scale West Loop projects. One of them being the Hayden, which was 1109 Washington, 28 unit building that we had a lot of success on, and just finishing up a 58 unit project across the street in the West Loop. We're almost done on. We've got 3 units left, and we're about 3 months away from launching a large 3-phase, really large Fulton Market project. So should be a busy couple years. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thank you. So I'm sure you saw online the overarching theme of today's panel is new development, securing relationships with developers, new construction, but I'm pretty sure we could have called this panel like Titans of the industry and it would have been just as applicable. All these people are high producers, and we all in this room have something to learn from these three. Fun fact, I think it's both of your first time on a panel, right?
Yes.
I feel very honored.
Well, you called me and said, Mark will do it if you do it, and then you called Mark and said, Mark will do it. So that's how we got here.
This was a package deal.
Yes. And then I called Jill and I was like, hey, can you make Mike answer my email? It was all a thing. Okay, so we're going to talk about new development and securing developer relationships. How this kind of works, I broke this down into topics based off of the questions that you guys submitted on Eventbrite, so thank you very much for doing that. Every question is going to be directed at one person, but if you have something to add to someone else's question, please jump in and feel free to do that. Taylor, you want to go ahead and introduce our first topic?
Yeah, let's get into it. All right, so first topic is going to be real estate career development and taboo topics. So we're going to go right to Mark for the first question. What qualities or expertise does it truly take to sell large-scale development? What specific characteristics or knowledge should one practice in order to sell this type of real estate?
Great question. So I think if your goal is ultimately to sell any sort of development, you really need to become an expert at a lot of things. One of them is land acquisition. You need to become a zoning expert. You need to become an expert in floor plans. You need to kind of become an expert at all facets of construction, from foundation, roof, framing, the more you know, the more you could learn, the quicker you're going to build rapport with developers if you ever get in front of them. So I think that's really the biggest thing. And if you spend a lot of time selling the smaller scale stuff, and you're lucky enough to make a relationship with a developer that ends up building bigger stuff, if you've built that relationship with him, the expertise, the knowledge, he or she will feel comfortable letting you step up to that next level, maybe a 12 flat, 18 unit building. In my case, our first big project was a 28 unit project, which was wildly larger than anything we'd ever done. But we had a relationship with these guys that spanned over 12, 13 years. We had sold every project they had ever built, and so the relationship was there. So if you've never sold development and you want to get into it, like, you need to attach yourself to someone who's already doing it. You know, someone like Danielle, someone like Mike, someone like me, anyone in your brokerage who is doing this at a high level. If you want to learn, attach yourself to them. Sit open houses, take as many tours of pre-completed projects as you can, ask questions about construction process, and really just become an expert on all things. And that is what developers, at least what I've found, developers will only work with you if they're confident in your expertise, especially with the construction, but also neighborhood expertise. You need to know everything that's going on, all the projects, what Mike's got going on, what Danielle has going on. These guys know everything, and they expect you to be as well-versed, if not better, than they are. So,
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was a great answer.
Yeah.
This next one is for you, Mike. Tell us about a deal or a project that taught you the most, not because of its success, but because of all the obstacles you had to overcome.
Well, I think they've all taught me the most, actually. I mean, all of them are different in one kind or another. But I think one of the first lessons I've learned is to be precise. My first project I had was 1700 block of Diversity or something like that. And it was right there before Heartland Park even got started. That was just a big field. Our 12 units there were the first building to go up for this project. And there was this grand plan that took forever, but now it's beautiful over there. But I got fired on the 11th. I sold 11 of them. I got fired on the 12th because supposedly I messed up on a paint color for a room.
Wow.
And the developer got pissed. It was $400 or something like that. The developer got pissed and he fired me. So sold 11 units out of the 12, and then I got fired on the last one. So over $400. So you just had to be precise, basically.
Okay.
I would say that's part of the big thing.
All right, we're gonna come over to Danielle. So I think we're very quick to talk about accolades and accomplishments, but what is a big misstep that happened in your career? Do you have an example or can kind of talk about how it maybe shaped what you did moving forward and changed things in your career?
So I really don't think of missteps as being negative. I mean, I think they're positive. Everything has a positive if you take it out of there. I think for me, the only thing, and I think I've said this on other panels, I wish I would have pushed a little harder when I first started. Like, I was very baby stepping some things, and now that I look back, I'm like, you should have just went for it. And that amounts to my investing portfolio earlier on. Like, there's so many things that if I would have done this 10 years ago, but I was scared that now I'd be sitting in such a different spot. And not that I'm bad, but I just wish I would have known. But I think that's part of learning, and that goes with building a team and new construction. I think in new construction, I wanted to make sure I knew everything because I didn't want to ever screw anyone over. And that's how I feel about clients. That's how I feel about my developers. And like Mark said, you need to be an architect, you need to be a designer, you need to be a developer, and you need to be a salesperson. That is how you understand new construction. And those are all things that you have to do your diligence on. And you have to really love it. And it has to be something that you feel inside of you, that you like being that person that has all that knowledge. But the misstep that I would say would just be kind of that. I think it was just more of not pushing myself in a lot of different avenues quicker than I did. And now, obviously you don't want to push too hard too because there is a balance there, right? You don't want to overdo things. But that was probably the only thing that I would say. As far as new construction goes, I remember the first land deal that I did. where I sold the land. I don't have a problem sleeping. Like when I lay down, I go to sleep, I wake up the next day, like I've never had an issue. And I remember the first time I ever had a problem because I sold this land and I was super excited to work with these guys and I'd worked with them on something else. And I knew the land was good, but also it was like coming right out of like the recession, right? So like you didn't want to overpay for land and you didn't really know where the market was going. Like it was going like this, but you didn't know how it was going to go like this. And I remember like could not sleep for like 2 weeks thinking, oh my God, did I make them overpay? Did I make them overpay? Like I was so freaked out about it. We ended up like, when I look at it now, we underpaid and the project was super successful, but like those are the things, you know, I think that like keep you up at night. Like that's the things that kept me up at night, right? Now I feel more comfortable with where you're at, but the one thing I will say in new construction, it can change on a dime. It's a macro markets in Chicago. Just because you know one neighborhood and you know one type of new construction, it can be totally different in another neighborhood.
This question's, I think I might as well just put it back to you because you were kind of going in this direction, but when did you know you were really good at your job and when was that turning point and how did that change how you moved forward with your clients and with your developers?
I think it took me like 5 years in the business, 5 to 6 years to be very confident in like what I was doing. But I also make sure that I do my diligence. Like I'm not a fake it till you make it. Like I'm not that way. I have to know everything. I have to know what I'm doing. And I have to believe that what I'm saying is 100% right. And that's just kind of like my personality. But I think it was about 5 to 6 years when I was like, oh, and then when you start to talk to people and you see how things click in your brain but may not click in theirs, or you just, as like you have a team, you just kind of see on your team like, wow, how it clicks. It's just something that's innate, I think, in your nature and your personality. And I don't think there's a way to really actually formulate it and or to say like, this is it. You just either have it or you don't. I think it also depends on what you put in. Like I was psychotic when I first started. Like I would set up on the MLS searches. I would go to a broker, open house. I would look at the property. Then I would say, I think it's going to sell for this because this reasons. Then I would go back through and I would check my work. Like I call it like my blackout years, but there was like 6 years where I woke up at like 6 in the morning. I did work out every day. That was the only thing I was consistent besides real estate. And I went to sleep at midnight. I did not really see my family. I did not go on vacation. Not saying to do that, but I just wanted it so bad and I wanted to be able to take care of myself. That was the whole point. And so I think that, like for me, that's how I did it. But you know, I try for our team, for me to not have them do that same thing. Like I try to mentor them enough and help them enough to where they can get to that level without having to do what I had to do.
Do you have anything to add over there about like, I feel like this question is for the new people in the room. Does confidence come from accolades? Does it come from volume? Like how can someone who's newer in the industry, you know, feel confident doing their job against somebody with experience like you?
I mean, I think what Daniel's saying is absolutely correct in terms of, and Mark as well. You just have to know the market. You have to know what's going on in all facets of it. I think that's where the confidence comes from. You know, you can sit there and act like you know something, or I think today's world is a little different in terms of social media and things of that nature, where everyone looks like they're doing this beautiful work and tons of you know, sales going on and things of that nature, but you just have to know it, and I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah. Anything to add, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, knowledge is what it is, right? That's where all of your confidence comes from. And I think for me, it took a couple years. I started to realize a switch with me when the first couple little projects I was selling, there were 2 of them in particular where I ended up getting calls from buyer's agents, clients that I had met during the showings. And they basically said like, hey, we love our broker, but we're gonna fire them because we realize they don't understand new development. And that was kind of for me, I'm like, okay, so I'm doing something, like I'm separating myself from kind of the herd. So that was kind of a moment where I kind of realized like I need to really go all in on this, and kind of what Danielle said too, like I spent from 2010 to 2015, I mean, I still kind of do it today, but every day woke up, you know, Bucktown, Wicker Park, West Loop, North Center, Roscoe Village, Lincoln Park, Gold Coast, every deal that just came on the market, every deal that went under contract, doing price per square foot math, knowing every single listing that was in the markets that I had projects in. So when the developer's like, what's going on in the market? It's like, oh, Mike sold 2 of his units in one of his projects, Danielle sold 1 of hers, you know, why aren't you selling ours? And it just, you just need to have knowledge. And like what Mike said about social media, there's so much noise, so much kind of, I don't want to say fake, but there's an appearance of knowledge with just about everybody now. And when you're in a showing with someone and you actually have real knowledge, like it stands out. And it's very easy today to be that person if you just take the time to become an expert. And like my team probably gets sick of me. It's twice a week. I'm like, forget about all this other shit, become an expert. Like, what did you look at this week? What's closing? What's under contract? And it just kind of never ends. And that's kind of what it takes if you really want to be a market leader in whatever you're selling, be it luxury Gold Coast, development, entry-level stuff on the Northwest side, like just know your market.
Yeah.
Like that's the biggest thing.
After still 22, 23 years, I still look at the hot sheet every morning.
Hot sheets,
Hot sheet
I
every
love a
morning.
good hot sheet.
So,
It's my favorite thing to do.
Jill constantly asks me questions about like what I think pricing is and all. I mean, how many times do I get it right? Like you just have to know it.
You just have to know. And I think being able to, I think for you guys, like the most important thing is most people will not prepare for something until an opportunity is given to them, right? And I think with me at least, and with these guys, like you need to be ready for that conversation with the developer before it happens, right? So when you're sitting at, Gibson's for lunch or somewhere and someone just starts chatting to you about the real estate market and they ask you a simple question about, say a luxury building in the Gold Coast, and if you pick your phone up to look up the stats, you're done, right? People respond to knowledge. And if you could build up that knowledge, and it'll take a few years, but if you could build up that knowledge, you will find yourself 4 or 5 years, 10 years into your career, sitting up here and doing a panel on how you ended up where you were at. So yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there is no shortcut, and everyone really tries, I think, sometimes, especially in this day and age. When I started in real estate, like, honestly, it was not cool at all to start being real estate. Like, it was kind of like, what happened to you? Like, why didn't you go to college? Or like, what was going on? I mean, now it's like you have all these glamorous shows and everyone's like, oh my God, it's so cool, it's so easy. It is not easy. I mean, you have to know what you're doing, especially if you want longevity. And I mean, the shows, I think, kind of in my personal opinion, especially for a woman, I think it's kind of, it downgrades what we do. I mean, you don't walk in with 10-inch heels to a 10,000-foot property, not know anything about it, and sell that listing. I mean, maybe in Miami and LA occasionally, okay, I'm not gonna lie, but that's not like a Chicago thing, I mean, you have to know what you're doing, in my opinion, or you should know what you're doing. I mean, so I think, knowledge is power, and you have to put your time and effort. It's like anything, it's like going to school for whatever your career is. If it's something outside of real estate, like you have to know what you're doing. And I think you're right. Like I tell everyone on my team, like you need to know all the names of the luxury buildings downtown and the addresses, just for what Mark said. Like if you're sitting there and someone's like, oh, 180 Pearson, and you don't know what the name of the building is, or like you don't, it's like people can tell, they automatically just assume you have no clue what you're talking about. So like it's little small things that you just drop and people will automatically think you know everything. You just have to know how to place it.
You need to know just enough.
Yes.
And whatever, you start small, in a neighborhood, Bucktown, or whatever neighborhood you want to focus on, and spend a couple months every day studying the market, the little micro neighborhoods within in the pocket, the lot sizes, the zoning on each block, every little detail, and you will wake up 4 or 5 months from now and you'll be like, wow, like I had a talk with somebody and he was asking me about Bucktown and I just kind of started spouting out all this knowledge. It just will come naturally. And again, like the second you pick your phone up to look something up with a big buyer or a developer or someone that's important, they're gonna kind of put you in the same category as every other broker in the city, right? People respond to deep, deep, deep knowledge. And Mike and I, like we're constantly talking about stuff. Like we're always calling each other like, hey, what's going on? What do you got, what are you pricing this building at? And we're always studying what's going on in the market. And yeah, it just never stops.
Yeah, I mean, the next topic is perfect. You guys keep segueing nicely for me. We're gonna talk about new development specifically in Chicago, starting with you, Mike. What types of new development are you seeing the most demand for in the city? And what do you see as far as the most exciting growth potential for Chicago in the next 5 years or so?
well, my development's the hottest in the city of Chicago. But 3951 North Wayne. So I think the hottest developments right now, I think, are the 2 and 3 flats. That's kind of what you're seeing in the world at the moment. There's not a lot of scale these days. I know Jameson Sotheby's, who I work for, has 85%, I think, of the new construction stuff out there. We represent Cirrus. We represent One Chicago. I mean, it's the bigger ones. But those are all kind of trickling with sales, which is kind of where they're at in their phase as well. They're selling nicely, but nothing's blowing out. But I'd say the 2 flats, 3 flats, 6 flats, things of that nature are kind of where the game is at this point. It's difficult to build today in today's world in terms of costs. It's difficult for land, construction, city. City is a big problem usually. The biggest growth, I'd say, is still like in the 5 boroughs of what I call it. It always kind of seems to be Lincoln Park, Lakeview, Bucktown, West Loop, and Gold Coast kind of. Or River North kind of. But I think River North will be coming back soon, quite honestly. I think there's a lot of potential in those areas. The zoning is positive there. So in terms of growth in the future, I'd say maybe River North.
Wow, was not expecting that. Do you guys have any agreements, disagreements on that?
Yeah, I think the neighborhood stuff is always going to be desirable because people want to live right in the middle of Lincoln Park or whatever neighborhood it might be. But from a large scale perspective, I think you're going to see the most growth in the West Loop. You'll probably see 3 or 4 cranes being put up there in the next 6 months. None of it is for sale. It's mostly mixed use and multifamily. And there's lots of reasons why developers kind of pivoted towards that. The city makes it easier for you to get apartment buildings approved. But our project, we're working on what is going to be one of the largest projects in the city. It will be kind of a market changer. It's going to be wellness focused, something that you've never seen in the West Loop before, and very seldomly in the city. So I'm bullish on that market just simply because there isn't going to be anything else coming. I don't think there's one other fully concepted for sale large scale project in Chicago right now. So we're gonna be kind of in a sweet spot where we kind of have the market to ourselves from the large scale perspective. But yeah, everything you're gonna see going forward, you're never gonna see large scale new construction sub $1,000 a square foot ever again. Land is too expensive. Construction costs are up 30+% since COVID, and they're not gonna come down. Zoning, incredibly difficult. The affordable stuff, very difficult to navigate. So yeah, it's new development is going to do really, really well the next few years because there's just going to be very little of it, and everybody wants new. So
we're going to move over to Danielle. So I see your beautiful team over there together. How do you as a team source land, and can you maybe talk about what agents need to understand in terms of zoning, pricing, profitability in order to complete a successful project?
So, actually, Mark touched base on a lot of this earlier on. So when people come on, if they want on the team, I teach them how to zoning, kind of same thing. Every neighborhood has a different standard lot size, even though your standard's 25 by 125, right? But you kind of need to know what areas have what lot sizes. Then you need to know zoning. You need to know the mathematical equation. Once you put the lot size and the zoning together, how many units you can build and what size they are. And then once you know that, then you can go back and you can pull comps and you can say, oh, this new construction sold for this. So my developer does this. So what we do is basically pencil the entire thing out for developers. So we kind of know what their price per square foot is and what they like building and what areas. So I'm not going to send my developer that does stuff in West Loop. I'm not going to send him stuff that's in Albany Park or whatever, or my West Side guys, I'm not going to send them Lincoln Park. But we kind of know what their price per square foot to build is. We ask them, we kind of stay up on that. We also know what their product is, because we're not going to put someone that is a Lincoln Park builder on the West Side and vice versa, because like it's not even about like how much it costs for them to build. It's about like what their actual design is, what materials they use. So there's so many things that you have to know, but we go through all of this so everyone on the team knows. And then when we send it out, we're like, basically, here's what it's going to cost you to build, including the land and, you know, all your cost of everything else that comes through, and then here's what we think the sellout is. And then that way they can basically just say yes or no. I mean, that's the easiest way to do it. Now, when you get into like Mark's size projects, like you're gonna have to get like an architect involved, because like, you know, I'm not doing a lot of the DX zoning and stuff like that. So it's a little bit different, or if it's like a more custom lot, or if it's like a B zoning and something like that. But for the most part, like we know all the equations in order to really put a whole package together to say whether they should purchase the land or not.
Anything to add? Was that all encompassing?
Yeah, I mean, you know, for neighborhood stuff, like what Danielle said is spot on. Like the easiest way to get in front of a developer is bringing them a lot that has already been penciled. You know it's going to work, right? You know it costs $850,000 for the dirt. The building's going to cost $2 million to build, plus or minus a few dollars, and the sellout's going to be, you know, 3.4, whatever it is. So that's the quickest way to get on the good side with the developer. The quickest way to scare that developer away is bringing them a piece of land that you think might be cool for development, but is grossly overpriced or doesn't pencil or the zoning's wrong. And these guys all know what they're doing, and they will know within 5 minutes if a lot will work or not. So you have to be very careful if you do find yourself with an opportunity. Say you've got a 50-foot by 125-foot that you think you could build a 6-flat on. If you don't know all these things, like Danielle said, the price per foot, the build cost, all that stuff, your first call should be to somebody who knows it, so you don't mess up the opportunity with the developer. Because they will take your call and they will take a meeting, but they will not talk to you after the fact if you bring them a bad deal.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, back to
Or even mess up the opportunity for yourself too. Because,
correct.
I mean,
Yeah.
with land these days, it goes very quickly.
Yeah.
If it's something good.
Yeah.
So you have to know your stuff and know who to go to.
Yeah.
Very soon, within basically
Within
12 hours or 24
yeah.
hours. So it's very quick.
Yeah.
This one, I have a little bit of insider information because me and Mark had a really nice conversation before you guys got here. So he lives in Wyoming and Chicago, works in both markets, which is really unique and cool. Can you tell them what you told me earlier about the difference in the market between Chicago and Jackson Hole, and also maybe specifically new development here versus there?
Yeah, so the Wyoming conversation's it's a long one, but the markets there are very drastically different. It's a very, very small market, hyper luxury. Price points in Jackson Hole are 5-10x what they are in Chicago. It's a very, very unique place, very limited amount of land. There's 97% of the land in the valley is protected from development. So it 97%, yeah. So there's only 3% of the available land is 30% of that 3% is also restricted from development. So it's a very unique market in that regard, and a lot of other reasons. But we were talking about, you know, a lot of people ask me how I manage two places, right? It seems like it would be very daunting, but Jackson Hole is such a small market where Chicago will do 300 or 400 transactions daily across all market categories, you know, closed, pendings, news, you know, whatever it is. So say there's, you know, 500-600 transactions a week roughly here. Jackson Hole, the entire market will be lucky to do 400 transactions the entire year. So it's a very, very slow-paced market, which I love. So kind of bring a big city work ethic into this small place, which is kind of what allowed me to break into the market very slowly. But what originally brought me out there was lifestyle. I went out there as a climber, and I'm still going out, you know, I'm there for lifestyle reasons. And, you know, so we're here, we're selling a lifestyle in the city, but out there the sales are really lifestyle based. It's like, my clients want to go fly fishing, my clients want to go mountain biking, and instead of going for drinks to talk about a deal, we'll go on a 4-hour hike, or we'll go on a fly fishing trip, and it's just.
I like that.
Yeah, it's
pretty
really.
Sounds fun.
It's a lot of fun. It's taken me 15 years to get it figured out, but it's absolutely amazing, and it's like my perfect scenario for the way that I want to live.
How do you manage, I know this is off script, but the work-life balance of being someone who goes on a climbing trip that might be, I don't even know how long those take, but being away from your phone for that long, like what can you tell us about work-life balance and not having to answer emails immediately?
So, it's great. I've got a great team, which certainly helps. I think I wasn't able to do it a lot when I was younger. You just can't, right? When you're just starting off or 4 or 5 years into your career, I think Danielle said, like, there's no balance, right? You have to be all in, you have to be fully committed, and you have to be outworking everybody if you want to get ahead. It took me a while to figure it out, but after I was, I've gone on a couple 30, 45 day kind of expedition type trips, and I panic about it a little bit, but then I come back and everything's okay. The world didn't end, my clients didn't fire me, and I think you just have to, when you get to a certain point, you have to be okay just someone getting mad at you. Like, I'm not gonna not go to Nepal because one of my clients is mad that their house hasn't sold. Like, if you wanna fire me. Like, I just have to, you have to live your life at some point. Not when you're younger, but when you've been around as long as we have, like, if you are still running around like a maniac and not taking personal time, you've done something wrong, I think. And not to, offend anybody, but like, you need to carve out time for yourself, and you need to have a hobby, and you need to have something you're passionate about. And for me, that just happens to be the mountains, so.
I got this mental picture of Mark on top of a mountain being like, I cannot take this right now.
My phone is not on when I'm in the mountains.
He told me, he was like, the good thing is I don't have service, so it doesn't matter.
This question is going to be for anyone who wants to take it, talking about the future and kind of predictions. A lot of the questions that we got on Eventbrite were about the newly imposed tariffs and how they're maybe going to affect the pricing, supply, demand of materials and whatnot. So if you want to speak to that a little bit and what you maybe anticipate.
Well, considering I'm in the middle of a project that we're building, it's pretty much tariff-free at the moment. But in the future, I think the uncertainty, we will see increased pricing. We will see increased price per foot for construction costs and things of that nature. How much? I'm not quite sure. Who knows, really? I mean, I don't even know if these tariffs are real. Who knows what this guy's saying out there sometimes? So, we will see impact in new construction for sure. Things will get more expensive here in Chicago. They will get more expensive throughout the country. So that said, like, I think new construction today is actually somewhat of a deal, if you will, if you're looking at something, oh, well, I don't want to buy something for a year or two. Well, today might be a better time to buy it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, tariffs will certainly raise prices on steel, on pipe, on everything. And if a developer's penciling out a project, he's going to bake that into his costs, and it's going to be reflective in the sale prices. And if we underwrite something at $4 million in sellout, and he needs to get 4.3 in sellout, and we're not comfortable with that number, we're not going to do the deal, right? So yeah, I think prices are going to continue to go up, and finding sites in Chicago right now is very, very difficult. There's very little of it. The last 15 years, like, all these neighborhoods have had a ton of teardowns, especially around here, but they're very, very limited now. So finding land and getting projects to pencil is tough, and the tariffs will certainly make it a little tougher, I think.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna try something new, guys. This might be a fail, but this is where you should get out your paper and pen. So we got so many questions from you guys that were hyper specific. I couldn't even put them into a topic. So what we're gonna try is rapid fire. So I'm gonna just ask a question, somebody's gonna take it, try to keep it short and sweet because there's a lot, but I think there's a lot of good stuff in here. So again, pay attention. First one, anyone who wants it. Where are you looking and going to meet developer connections and networking with them?
Bars. Gibson's. No, actually, I think, one of the, like the panel like this, something like BizNow has a lot of these panels that have developers out there that, they bring in 10 guys or actually they have 3 different panels and they bring in 20 guys and you can meet some great guys at those panels. So I'd say maybe a BizNow if you really want to go find a few developers at one sitting, it'd be something like that.
Amazing. All right, so you're at Gibson's Italia. What does your initial reach out to a developer look like? What does that conversation look like? Who would you reach out to?
Yeah, I think the reach out thing, a lot of developers, maybe they'll take your call, but if they don't know you, it's going to be virtually impossible. Yeah. So I think if you want to get in front of developers, attach yourself to someone like us in some way, shape, or form, and you're naturally going to be brought into situations at the local, pub or whatever. You're going to be in front of developers, and Mike's going to say, hey, yeah, this is Joe. Like, he's helping me on this development. Developer's going to know you. You sell a couple things as a co-lister. You get no notoriety, nothing. And eventually that developer might remember you. And when you have a piece of land, you're like, oh, Joe, I remember you were working with Mike. But just finding where developers hang out and saying, hey, could I sell your stuff?
They don't hang out anymore.
It's not going to work.
No, but finding a piece of land and going to them is the best thing,
way.
for sure.
Mike, how many deals have you inked at an Irish pub?
It'd be in the hundreds at this point.
We talked a lot about how to land a developer or pitch a project, but what does representing them in an active deal look like?
Sorry, say that again?
What does actively representing a developer in real estate look like?
Daily phone calls. What's going on? Why haven't you sold my fucking building?
They're definitely a little more aggressive than most of your clients, so be prepared for that too, which doesn't bother me, but
you have to go to them first. Don't sit there and wait for them to call you.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that. That's not going to fly. You have
but
to
also, you have to do development, sorry not to cut you off, I'm sorry, but when you're starting, you have to understand there's different phases. So do you come on right when they have land and you're helping with the architect? Are you selling off of plans? That's one way to sell. Also, buyers buy differently. You have buyers that buy off of plans, people that completely cannot see plans. They need to see framed. Then you have people that can't even see that. They have to see finished product. You have to know all the phases of development and when to change your marketing, when to change your plans, when to change how you're going to execute the deals. There's all these things that go on, and I think developers really appreciate when you bring to the table to them of, hey, here's what I think we should do. I never tell anyone what to do. I just give them all their options, but giving them their options consistently and staying in front of them and updating them is super important.
Yeah, and you need to be willing to look at a developer and say these floor plans suck. We need to change them.
You have to.
So you really need to. You just need to understand what is selling and what the market wants. And a lot of times, developers will concept projects that they think will work, and then we get floor plans, and it's man, we have to tell this architect to redo the entire floor plate because these floor plans suck, right? And it's a tough conversation. But the one thing you don't ever want to be attached to is a failed project. And the quickest way to have a failed project is to have shitty floor plans, poor layouts, shitty finishes, whatever it is. So you need to be willing to tell your client that we have to pivot and go in a different direction. So it's all encompassing. It never stops.
Don't let them dictate the entire process.
And you have to educate some of them too, because just because they build a product doesn't mean that they know design or that they know finish level, right? So it's very important for you to understand that and be a step ahead. If they don't have some big developers have their own design teams, they do really well, right? But so for us, we even have an in-house designer where I will hire that designer because I don't want that developer picking out their finishes if they don't know what they're doing, because they'll be oh, we have some finishes left over from this place, so why don't we take them over here, right? Well, then I have the house next door that sold for this. Well, why can't you sell mine? Because you didn't use the finishes that we told you to use, which is super important. These are very, very, just because you build something new does not always mean that it's beautiful.